First of all, our thanks to 15th Legislative District Assemblyman Reed Garcia. How long have you been doing this kind of work?
This is my 16th year in the legislature.
Just one re-election, right?
In November, that's
So you're
correct.
going to be around for what, another, how many years?
Another 2 years, two-year term for Assembly, 4 for Senate.
All right. You like this work?
It's enjoyable, and I get to work with a lot of people, tackle a varied amount of issues, and sometimes make a difference in people's lives, which is rewarding.
You've given up a fairly, what could have been a very lucrative career as an attorney. You're a practicing attorney in New Jersey, and this must take up a lot of your time, so much so that you really don't have time to devote to building a law practice, right?
Yeah, it's part-time pay but full-time duties, and you could do something 7 days a week. I have over 200,000 constituents, have an office here in Trenton, and it's pretty busy, and we get involved in a number of issues.
Well, we have a whole bunch of things to talk about. The main thrust of our CLE today deals with the legislative process. And I'm really concerned about two things. Attorneys who are out there practicing may have need to interface with their own legislator on a particular statute they'd like to see enacted, or a statute they'd like to see amended in some way, or a statute they'd like to see repealed. So I'd like to talk
or try to obtain a judgeship.
Or, well, that too. That's not going to
with the advice and consent of the Senate.
Right, they're in the wrong body if they want to go to the Assembly for that.
It doesn't lack of trying.
But I want to start off with just the legislative process generally. Can you kind of walk us through, from your perspective, how an idea from a constituent or from another legislator or from a committee member will kind of go through the journey from being a concept to winding up on the governor's desk?
Sure.
What happens?
Well, first of all, you have to remember there's a rule of 41 in the Assembly and a rule of 21 in the Senate. We have 40 legislative districts. There are 2 Assembly people per district and then 1 state senator per district. So there are 40 state senators, 80 state Assembly people.
So why did I say 41?
Well, you need 41 votes to pass in the Assembly, and you need 21 votes to pass anything in the Senate.
Simple majority.
Simple majority. So a lot of times somebody will have the greatest idea for Mercer County or for Monmouth County, but unless you can get, and capital aid is one example, we're constantly trying to battle for the capital aid. Because Trenton is in a unique situation where we have the most amount of government buildings here, we have state employees that come here, we don't have an anchor store. Virtually you get no property taxes out of state buildings. So even though we have a great concept to help the capital city, unless I can convince 41 colleagues to vote for it in the Assembly and Senator Turner can convince 21 colleagues to vote for it in the Senate, the bill would not go anywhere. But notwithstanding, you try to get a consensus on a measure. You try to get co-sponsors for the measure from a broad group on a bipartisan basis. And then you make the pitch to the Speaker. We'd like to get this heard in committee. You get the committee chairman enthusiastic about the bill. You have to go through the committee process, and then it would be voted on in the full Assembly, and then the procedure is repeated in the Senate.
Let's walk through a theoretical bill. I want to do something that's near and dear to your heart, horseshoe crabs. And you're still in the Environmental Committee?
Yes.
So would horseshoe crabs fall under the Environmental Committee?
Yes.
Let's say that you got complaints that there had been overfishing or over-harvesting of the horseshoe crab population, both in New Jersey and in Delaware. And the experts, scientists, Rutgers, whatever it may be, come to you and say, the only thing that's going to save this is if we have a 3-year moratorium on harvesting of the horseshoe crabs, okay? That would require legislative action, at least for the New Jersey side of the Delaware Bay. So now you have this concept. What's the very first thing that you would do, just administratively, once this was pitched to you and you believe that it's a worthwhile idea?
Well, it's something you read newspaper accounts of. There are environmental groups that work with me because I'm on the Environment Committee, Sierra Club, Environmental Federation, and the like. And even constituents who enjoy bird watching down in Cape May once a year.
So does anybody out there know what kind of bird that is?
We each read the same emails, and I may get interested in the issue, and in that instance I did. And I introduced a bill to put in a moratorium on horseshoe crabs because their stock is being depleted by Japanese trawlers who are coming off the coast of New Jersey, harvesting them, but also there's an fishing them from local fishermen as well.
Right.
Less and less eggs are landing on the sands, and then the birds that migrate from South America on their pit stop to Canada don't have any place to harvest their own the horseshoe crab eggs, and you deplete the bird population as well.
So the need for the legislation is there.
Yes.
But what's the first step? I mean, is the first step to actually draft a bill, or is first step go speak to the Speaker of the Assembly and see whether or not this has any traction anywhere?
After getting all the input from the various groups, I contact the Office of Legislative Services. That's our research arm for the Assembly, and they would actually draft a bill. So whether I introduce it or not, it's a piece of paper that I can shop around to other members to get co-sponsors, and or take it to the Speaker and say, this is an interesting issue that I think the Environment Committee should take up. And also you need the cooperation of the Environment Chairman himself.
Well, let's go through it step by step then. The Office of Legislative Services, first of all, I understand that they are nonpartisan, they're strictly neutral, professional people. Do you ever write up your own bills, or do you let them do it all the time?
They have the expertise to actually put it in legalese language. Although I'm a lawyer, I'm not proficient in statute writing. They would actually come up with a draft of the bill. I would review it, and there's often times where I ask them to make corrections or make amendments. The bill can be amended at any point, and oftentimes there would be 5 amendments to a bill at different various points in the legislative process.
But in the early stage now, you've got the idea, you have constituents that want it, you think it's a good idea, you've contacted the Office of Legislative Services, they've drafted up a proposed bill, okay?
I would look at them, I would ask them to either make changes, or I would say it's good to go, and then I would have a bill that I could place in the hopper, so to speak.
Okay. Now, what is the procedure for placing a bill in the hopper? Is this just get it a number, basically?
The legislature meets either on a Monday or a Thursday, probably at least twice a month on one of those days. While the lights are on, while the legislature is on session, that's the only time you can introduce a bill into the legislative process. So I would have to wait on a Monday or a Thursday when the legislature is in session. I would go to the clerk's office and I would get it time stamped, and then the bill would be introduced.